Ultraman for the Super Nintendo. And you've got to give this game credit for one thing. It certainly captures the cheesy spirit of Ultraman. Before I even get into the gameplay, which is a whole story in and of itself, the game really captures the feeling of Ultraman, an old-school 1960s television show which has some pretty significant ties to the Godzilla films. I'm more familiar with Godzilla myself, but what I like about this game, in fact, the only thing I like about this game, is the sense that you're actually playing as Ultraman on a fake, cheap movie set. And that's a compliment, because I love these kinds of movies. I like the subtle flickering light in the background, like there's a city on fire, the burning buildings which look like models, and the fact that the characters on screen have the appearance of Japanese actors wearing elaborate costumes made out of foam and balsa wood, which is flat out awesome. Unfortunately, the gameplay doesn't even come close to living up to the style of Ultraman. Hooray! If I could smile, I would. You might be asking, how can you go wrong in a game where you're kicking mutated dinosaurs in the face with Ultraman? But the designers found a way. Of course, this brings up the age-old question of, what makes a video game good? Because, while I don't think this game is very good, if you were 8 years old in 1991 when your parents bought you this game, it's probably your favorite game. And nothing will ever take that away from you. On paper, Ultraman has everything right. It's a fighting game that stars Ultraman. You're punching out mutated monsters and dinosaur-looking things, kicking them in the face and finishing them off with laser beams. It's a really nice-looking game on the Super Nintendo, yet somehow they managed to squander all of these terrific elements on a game with some of the most horrible controls ever conceived. I always reference Ultraman when talking about the catalog of god-awful science fiction B-movie style Sega Genesis games, because the Super Nintendo is different than the Genesis. It's the high-class game console, with titles like Zelda, Mario Brothers, Star Fox, Metroid, and Mario Kart. If you were a B-movie science fiction game slumming it out back in the day, you went on the Genesis. But not Ultraman. Ultraman snuck past security in the back door wearing a suit and tie and made his way onto the Super Nintendo, when in reality, he should have ended up on the 32X. Now, I've basically just given the Super Nintendo one giant backhanded compliment, but it's actually nice to see that the game console with such truly amazing games as Yoshi's Island and Super Metroid could let down its guard for a moment just long enough to allow Ultraman to grace its presence. Honestly, as a Genesis guy, to me, this shows that the Super Nintendo has a soul. Because nobody likes something that's too perfect. And Ultraman is far, far from perfect. While it may get an A for B-movie style, it gets an F- for gameplay. Ultraman is slow, he's sluggish, he's only got a few moves in this game. He can punch, he can kick, he can shoot laser things, and occasionally roll or grab a monster and throw them. But unlike other fighting games, instead of just pounding your opponent until their life bar goes all the way down, you have to beat up your opponent until their life bar goes down and then finish them off to win the round, but you can only finish them off with a fully charged level 4 special weapon, which is constantly charging in the bottom middle of the screen. So basically you just beat your opponent up until they're near death, backflip out of the way until your weapon charges, kick them one more time, and then finish them off. But of course, it's the actually beating your opponents until their life bar goes into the red part that's challenging when the game gets harder, because Ultraman is so incredibly slow. And to make matters even worse for Ultraman, the video game, this does not even have a two-player mode. So, while Ultraman may not be remembered as a great game per se, it's a truly wonderful addition to the Super Nintendo catalog, because everybody always talks about the good games. You can't have the good without the bad. Ultraman brings balance to the universe. And for that, we salute you, Ultraman. We salute you. I gotta admit, after watching that, it is a bit disappointing to see Ultraman fall over with the game over screen, because Godzilla would never go out like that. He'd fly into space, regenerate, call Godzuki or Gamera, and come back and finish the game off because Godzilla always wins.